All right, if you're an intermediate guitar player and you feel like you've hit a wall, listen up. You can learn songs and play riffs pretty easily. You can hang out at a blues jam and feel pretty good about it, but it still feels like something's missing. Something is holding you back and you're just not making as much progress as you have in the past. This is known as the intermediate plateau. Today, I'm gonna show you 5 mistakes that are secretly killing your guitar progress. And more importantly, exactly how to fix them so you can grow way faster. These are the same mistakes I made for years, and once I fixed them, my playing exploded. So up first is not practicing with purpose, right? If you just grab your guitar and noodle for 30 minutes with the TV on, you might feel busy and productive, but you're not actually building lasting skills. Without structure, you're just chasing random ideas and then forgetting them just as fast. The fix? A simple, structured practice plan that covers all the essentials. You can tweak it depending on what you need to work on that day. Maybe you have a show coming up, but keeping a consistent framework is key. Even just 25 minutes of focused practice will crush hours of aimless noodling. Structure turns time into results. Let's say it again. Structure turns time into results. To get you jump started, I'm giving you a free copy of my full-length ebook called How to Practice. It's packed with months of structured practice plans and has my proven method that's helped hundreds of students see crazy fast progress. Grab it by clicking the link in the description below. And one last thing about practicing, creative time is just as important as practice time, right? Like writing, jamming, just mindless riffing. This is where you take everything that you've worked on and all the concepts and techniques and you put it into a real musical context, right? This is where new techniques and ideas come alive. So make sure you leave space every single day for creative exploration. Because seriously, if you're only just practicing scales, running up and down and not applying things creatively to music, then what do you do? It's like kind of eating like a really good workout routine diet, but then you never work out. It's like, what's the point, Okay, the next point is playing with effects on all the time, especially when you're practicing, okay? Now, yes, there are 2 sides to this argument, right? Yes, you should absolutely practice with effects because A, it's fun, and B, some effects like distortions or reverbs, delays, they can really quickly get out of hand, especially at higher volumes, right? So it's important that you get a feel for how to maintain control over your guitar, anything from feedback, unwanted string noise, harmonics, changes in your tone, your volume, and effects will require you to make changes in your technique accordingly, right? So the biggest thing I see with intermediate players is they're practicing and jamming at home, and then they go to a jam session or they have a show, and they've never had to turn their amp above 2 or 3 before, and now all of a sudden their amp is up to 5, and they just go to even touch the low E string and it sounds like an explosion going off, and they're going, oh my God, they're panicking because they're like, how do I control this? It's just gonna sound so crazy and insane, right? So things change when you're using effects, especially at higher volume, so definitely keep that in mind. Now that being said, when you're practicing in the practice room, you're working on scales or chords or specific techniques, a completely dead clean tone is going to be your best friend. It's gonna expose every little nuance, every mistake that you could possibly be making. I studied with Tomo Fujita while I was at Berklee for a couple semesters, and I'll never forget the first time I went in for my first lesson with him, he turned off the reverb and cranked the treble, and I felt so exposed and so naked. I felt like you could hear my nervous fingers kind of shaking against the strings. Every little nuance that I could have messed up was amplified to the max, right? So I remember I went home and I started practicing like this, and practicing with this dead clean tone really improved my technique and streamlined my growth because I was able to quickly and effectively pinpoint my weak areas, right? Gaps in my techniques, and it allowed me to get really deep into the nitty-gritty of my playing. Sometimes something as simple as a little too much reverb can hide our smallest mistakes and really lead to forming bad habits with our technique. Today's video is sponsored by my Back to Basics Masterclass. This step-by-step course is built for intermediate guitar players who are ready to break out of the plateau that we've been talking about this whole time and finally master your essential skills. If you want to take ideas from this video even further, this is your ticket. You'll master your triads, your scales, your arpeggios, your 7th chords, your inversions, so much more, and the exact tools that will unlock the fretboard and take your playing from pretty good to freaking next level. 94% of students who completed this masterclass gained more freedom when they're playing songs, jamming with their friends, and just have more confidence every time they go to pick up their guitar. And right now I'm offering a flash discount for the first 25 signups while supplies last. Click the link below to jump in. All right, now back to the lesson. Another point is not learning full songs, right? A lot of people just want to learn the guitar solo or the intro riff or the cool outro rhythm guitar part, right? Only learning riffs is like learning random words or phrases in a different language, right? You're never actually speaking full sentences or able to really completely communicate, right? If you never learn full songs, you're also going to miss out on understanding and internalizing song structure, right? Transitions, and also a really good exercise in endurance. For example, you learn the intro to Sweet Child of Mine, and then that's all I learned. Cool, but what happens next, right? So what I want you to do for your homework tonight is pick a song that you love and learn the whole thing start to finish. Intro, verse, chorus, solos, everything. Learn the vocal melody. You're going to be amazed how much you learn in the process. Not only will you hear how the chords blend in with the leads, the bass line, the solo, the vocal melodies, you'll learn how everything works together to create a song. And more importantly, you'll start internalizing song structure. This is a huge thing that guitarists struggle with a lot, right? Being comfortable with song structure is going to help you, keep track of where you are at any song. If you've ever been at a jam and someone got lost maybe in a blues, right? Like they stopped soloing in the middle of the form and everyone looked at them like, why did you stop soloing? We haven't even got to the turnaround yet. And then you're like, I don't even know where we are, right? So learning full songs is an easy way to train yourself to always keep track of where you're at. Another massive point here, right? If you're playing a song all the way through start to finish, it's gonna force you to correct mistakes on the fly, right? Which is arguably one of the most important skills to possess as a musician, okay? If you're just in the practice room working out a new song and you make a mistake on the first verse, it's easy to just, whoop, I'm gonna push pause here and stop for a minute or two, work it out, figure out what went wrong, and then just restart the song. And that's fine. That's a very important step when it comes to learning songs, right? That's a really good step for the practice room, okay? But if you never just practice executing the whole song start to finish, you mess up, you keep going, right? This can lead to bad habits and a lot of anxiety while performing. A lot of students of mine who say, hey dude, I have like debilitating stage fright. As soon as I tell them to just keep playing through your mistakes and go through the whole thing, they gain a lot of confidence. Once they're able to play through that whole song start to finish, even if they made mistakes in the middle somewhere along the way, there's some kind of serenity, right, in completing a task, and learning an entire song is just a really massive confidence booster. So the more full songs you learn, you're going to start figuring out like, wow, once I learned 5 songs, I kind of have a process of how to memorize each section and each transition, and it becomes easier and easier. It literally is just as much of a muscle as learning to play faster. All right, another big one is not practicing your rhythm guitar, okay? I can't stress this one enough. This is huge with intermediate players, and a lot of people, put most of their practice time into soloing, and I get it. It's fun, it's flashy, it makes people think that you are cool and can really play the guitar, right? But here's the truth. In the real world, 95, 98% of the time you're playing guitar out in the world, you're going to be playing rhythm, right? Unless you're Carlos Santana. But seriously, strong rhythm chops don't just make you a better accompanist, a better part of the rhythm section, but it's a foundation for great soloing, okay? Groove, timing, dynamics, all come from locking into the pocket, being with a rhythm section, right? Without that foundation, your leads are going to sound stiff, disconnected, a little rhythmically lost, right? You're going to fight to make your solos flow. You're going to have a lot harder time keeping track of what chord changes you're playing over, where you are in the song, right? This ties into what we were just saying, learning full songs, okay? And the truth is, if you're not practicing rhythm every day, you're leaving a huge gap in your playing. Great rhythm skills not only sharpen your awareness and attention to detail, but they really force you to listen to the entire rhythm section. And learning how to listen is a whole skill in itself, right? When you listen to a song, you hear the drums, the bass, the keyboards, how loud or soft so-and-so is playing, therefore how you should respond. Like if I should be playing higher up on the neck, or if I should be lowered in the lower register, holding down that bassy sound, right? And most importantly, you'll learn to adapt and react to the ever-changing nature of music without having to think about it, okay? And that's, to me, what separates a pro from an intermediate. So fix this now and your musicianship will skyrocket. everything you play will suddenly feel more connected, more intentional, and way more alive. And keep in mind, practicing rhythm isn't just sitting there strumming chords, right? It's about sitting in the deep pocket, okay? Get in there, explore different feels, and just being able to adapt to any groove, right? So personally, I learned to connect the entire fretboard by practicing my rhythm, okay? Because you're learning all these different triads in different positions, seventh chords, all your inversions, and you're doing voice leading. You're learning how they all link together, and it just like blasted open the neck for me, okay? And here's the best part. Once you know all your chords, right, practicing where all your chords live up and down the neck, you can also use them to solo. So this is a total game changer. And again, I'll reiterate, all the best soloists I know are some of the strongest rhythm players I've ever heard. It's literally like a superpower, okay? So make rhythm practice a non-negotiable part of your daily practice. One last point is don't be afraid to mess up. There comes a point in most intermediate players where, you can play most of what you hear, you could jump into a blues jam and hold it down. Like you feel confident walking into like the majority of musical situations that you could find yourself in, like a jam or something, right? But here's what I've noticed, okay? Players who feel the most stuck are often the ones who are most afraid of making mistakes. It's almost like a debilitating fear. They like to really cling to the rules that they've learned online, and they find safety in music theory and comfort in always being able to explain why they're right. Right? To me, it's just like, okay, you're a little insecure because you haven't been progressing as fast. Forget all that shit, okay? Making mistakes is like jumping into a brand new Bugatti Veyron on the Autobahn in the fast lane, okay? It's like the fastest way to get better. And I'll say some of my best solos have been born out of mistakes. And once you realize that messing up isn't going to kill anyone or cause some kind of catastrophic chain reaction, right? You really start to relax. And you can always think of the Victor Wooten quote, he's like, you're always one fret away from a right note. So you'll start taking risks when you solo and you start feeling free. It's like a 3-year-old with a coloring book. They just scribble all over the page without a care in the world, and they're so happy with it. And have you ever seen a 3-year-old get upset because they colored outside the lines? You know what I mean? Like, no, they're stoked. They're like, look how good my drawing is. And with that mindset, you just never know what you're gonna find, right? Fix these mistakes and you will see your playing take off faster than ever. If you wanna dive in even deeper and expand on everything we covered in this lesson, watch this video. I don't know which side it's on. It's packed with tips that will take your guitar skills to the next level.